I'm so excited to be delivering the message to you today. Whether it's in chapel, whether it's in Bible class, I love telling about what God has done in my life. And I especially have a message today that speaks pretty closely to my heart. I'm going to talk about a craftsman who takes some raw material and forms it into such a beautiful craft. Let's take a blacksmith who takes a piece of metal and forges it into a beautiful sword. The first step that he has to go through is to take a block of metal, whatever it looks like, put it in this furnace, whether it be a small one or a big one like you see in steel plants. These furnaces get extremely hot. 1800 degrees is what this metal has to get up to in order for the craftsman to work on it. So he takes that metal, heats it up, puts it on his anvil, and starts beating. Boom, boom, and he's drawing it out. He's making it longer. He's taking maybe this cube, this rectangular prism here, and he's drawing it out into a longer tube. Now, if the craftsman stopped here, it would just be a tube. That's it. There's a lot of processes that it needs to go through in order to get to its point. So the next one is he's going to taper the edges. So he's going to take his hammer right along the edges of that metal, and it starts to slope, and it starts to look more like a sword. Now, there's a lot of things that could happen here. He could end up beveling, he or she could end up beveling it up in the middle, got to put it right back in and hammer it back down. It's going to go through the forge quite a lot in this process. And once again, if the craftsman ended right here, the sword wouldn't be ready. The sword would not be as powerful as it could be or as strong as it could be if it made it all the way through to the end. And throughout this process, the craftsman is paying close attention to every aspect of that metal. The craftsman is paying close attention to even the grain on the metal, normalizing it several times all the way through. You know, that craftsman makes me think a lot about God. How God takes us, maybe an ugly piece of metal, and he forges us. But here's the thing, guys. How does he do it? How are we best formed? How are we best forged? I truly believe the Scripture speaks to this, that we're best forged when we go through the fire. We're best forged when we're heated up. But we rely on the craftsman, and we know the craftsman is there. Yes, we feel like we're getting hammered, and we feel like maybe it's Satan, maybe it's something else, maybe it's God forming us. Maybe it's God making us into his masterpiece. Isaiah 41:10 says, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." Did you catch the words there? I will strengthen you. Oh God, send me down your magical strength. Well, I'm not going to say that doesn't happen. I truly feel like in my life that I've gone through that fire, that I've been hammered out, and sometimes I felt like I couldn't get hammered anymore, but the craftsman is paying attention to every detail. The craftsman is paying attention to every strike. And if at any point I left that process too soon and I ran away, I wouldn't be as powerful. I wouldn't be as strong. I wouldn't be as mighty as if we go through the rest of the process of making the sword or the rest of the process of strengthening our faith. I don't know about you, but I love water. Whether it's sitting here by this little lake, whether it's sitting by the creek at camp, I have a lot of respect for water. Water can give life, and water can take it. Water can cleanse and wash, and water can destroy. It's pretty amazing. And here in this process of forging our sword ourselves, it plays a huge role in our lives and in the lives of a master craftsman and his craft. But right before this, there's a process that amazes me. It's called annealing. In annealing, the sword or the steel is raised to an incredible high temperature, but it's not quenched in the water like you see in all those movies. That's not yet. It's allowed to cool slowly, maybe hours, maybe days. There's a reason for this, so that the metal is ductile. You can craft it, you can mold it, you can carve into it. So the craftsman can make his mark on his craft. Guys, there's a lot of times we sit here in these furnaces and these times of trouble, and we're there for a while, and we find ourselves almost falling apart, almost becoming weaker. That's God working on us. God's breaking us down. God's softening us so he, the craftsman, can make his mark on his craft. But then comes the process you see in all the movies. This is where the water is involved. Heated back up again in the forge, and then dumped in the water to harden. Guys, we won't be going through this process forever. But this process makes us so God can work on our hearts. And there's even one more here at the end. It's called tempering. And these are, just reminds me of, the big struggles in all of our lives. And then as we go through, we're put back in the fire bit by bit. But this time, the fire's not as hot for many different reasons. The craftsman doesn't want it as hot, but for us, maybe we're prepared. Maybe we're ready. Maybe when we were hardened from that bath before, we're now ready. And each time we go through, just like with the sword in the tempering process, we get harder and harder and harder in a good way, in a stronger way. We're ready to fight. We're ready to go forward with what we've learned through our struggles. Guys, there's going to be a point in your life. There's going to come a point in your life when you are called to arms. If we went through this whole process and we took it out when we were doing the drawing out and we took that out too soon, we wouldn't be ready to fight. We'd have no edge. And if we were left in the annealing process and we didn't let God finish on us, we would be too weak to even strike. Our edge would be gone. And if we didn't wait for that final process of the heat treating when we were dumped in that water and hardened, or if we didn't continue to make ourselves better and better through the tempering process, we would not be ready for that battle. Because when that battle comes and Satan lies across from you and you hold up your weapon, you hold your weapon high like a mighty warrior, what is it going to look like? Are you going to be ready to fight? In the New International Version, Daniel 3:25 through 27, he says, "Look, I see 4 men walking around in the fire, unbound and unharmed, and the fourth looks like a son of the gods." Nebuchadnezzar then approached the opening and blazing furnace and shouted, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out, come here." So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out of the fire. And then the satraps, prefects, governors, and royal advisors crowded around him. They saw that the fire had not harmed their bodies, nor has the hair on their heads singed. Their robes were not scorched, and there was no smell of fire on him. You see that even when we're in the fire, the craftsman was there with those who believe. I can tell you, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, I can only imagine what they were going through. Yes, they had faith. But when they went through that fire, when they went through that tempering, and they saw that God was still there, they came out stronger. They came out better. Guys, I don't know what you're struggling with right now. I don't know what's going on in your lives, but I know we all are going to come to a point where we feel like we're in that furnace. Stay strong. Trust in the craftsman. Trust in the maker. And again, when you hold up your sword, when you hold up your faith before the dark one, what will it look like? Will you be ready to fight?